Hello, Chris. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Beautiful. And thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, my man, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, I want to say thank you, Chris, for investing in yourself. You see, you on this platform right now because you did invest that in yourself. And oftentimes, my man, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You say some couple of months back, Chris, I was on a particular road and just by the roadside, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it. And the leaves, they were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Chris, just recently I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree, you see. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately, Chris, I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did. And it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it. Beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. And not just mangoes now, Chris. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that day. And I was so, so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Chris that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing. Your philosophies, your journey, your work, the impact your work is having, Chris, and how you are offering your solutions. These stuffs are beautiful. So I've got to say thank you for doing that to yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you for having me on and for the kind words. I think that's such a beautiful analogy, the mango tree and what you described. That there are seasons in our lives that we really don't bear any fruit. We don't look attractive. We don't seem to, we don't feel a sense of redeeming value in our lives. But then the next season comes, and what we learned in the difficulty of the previous season with no fruit leads us to bear great fruit in the future.
Mm, that's so true, my man, and I got that. And you see, Chris, I am quite excited to have you on the show today for a few reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Chris, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge alone, but the application of it. And you see, my man, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very crucial to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Chris on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Chris, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So, for that reason, my man, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Chris got here. And afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Chris, over to you.
Yeah, sounds great. So I'm in my late 40s and been married to my wife, Susie, for 25 years, going on 26 years. And we live in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we're right in the heart of Silicon Valley, where Google and Facebook and the technology boom began all the way back in the 1970s. And I was born and raised here in the Bay Area. And I worked in the marketplace for more than 25 years, almost 30 years of my life. I spent working in business. And all along the way, I felt this call. So I'm a person of faith. I follow Jesus. And when I was a teenager, I felt like God had called me into vocational ministry to be a pastor. And then I spent 27 years working in the marketplace and really just carrying this sense of frustration with me because I felt like I wasn't fulfilling God's greatest purpose for my life. Yet at every turn, there was just not an opportunity for me to step into that kind of a role in a church. Well, fast forward to 2022, just a few years ago, my wife and I and our family have been part of a large multi-site church here where we live. And I had an opportunity to go on staff there. And when I took that job, there's a story of calling behind that, and God spoke to me, and I discerned with friends and mentors and my wife, of course, had some great conversations with our pastors, and it ended in me joining staff at this church. And it was only there for a short time when our lead pastor left to go to another church, and there was a lot of shuffling in staffing. And I went from sort of well, let's make up a job to get Chris on the team to being in an executive leadership role in that church and overseeing all the business functions for the church and that kind of thing. And I could then look back at the 27 years I spent toiling in the marketplace, doing things that really weren't my passion. And I could see how Jesus had used all of those years of my life, nearly 3 decades, to prepare me for that season of work
Mm,
in the kingdom where I needed to understand leadership principles. I needed to understand business principles and how you form budgets and how you manage and lead people and all these things. So I was really given this beautiful gift. You know, they say that hindsight is 2020. And I was given that gift of hindsight when I took that new role at the church. And then God sort of upped the ante again, asked me to go serve as a campus pastor, which came with some of the struggles of a merge, sort of a situation where our campus in another city had merged with another church, and there were just the natural friction of taking two organizations and bringing them together, and needing to form the new culture of that group, that community that's together. So we walked through some of that. It took about 2 years, and then we handed that off to the long-term campus pastor. And I was going to go back to having just one job again, overseeing business operations for the church. But it was during that season that I really fell in love with frontline ministry, with having coffee with people, praying with people, being in people's lives and encouraging them and equipping them to live into God's greatest purposes for their lives. And it reminded me how much I love that side of ministry. And as I wrestled through what the next season looked like, God spoke very clearly through friends in times of prayer in many different ways, confirming that he had called us to plant a brand new church. So we got to plant a brand new church right here in the neighborhood that we've lived. Really, I've lived here since I was 10, but we've raised our whole family, all four of our kids here right in this neighborhood. And so we got to plant a church. We're in our 10th month. So we launched in September of last year, 2025. And it's been an incredible journey along the way, getting to see Jesus show up over and over again.
tell you, and to God be all the glory. And the fact that you were able to discern that your times at the marketplace was Jesus preparing you for your purpose, that's really true. And I've always held that belief. But many times God gives us job, just to train us, equip us for our own mission. Jesus,
Mhm.
before he started his ministry, he was once a carpenter. And I feel like those experiences were much needed. I got that. And thank you for sharing that. And thank you for listening to God's instructions. Okay, so let us talk about leadership principles. So, what leadership principles have guided you both in business and ministry?
Yeah, I think the primary one for me, it works in both places. the language, the way that you say it might be a little bit different in each place. In the business world, I would say it like this. I would say that I can't take people someplace I've never been. And in the ministry setting, the church setting, I would say that whatever Jesus wants to do through you, he first wants to do in you. And so whether you're a business leader or you're a leader in the faith space, we have to lead the way for those that are on our teams, those that are in our churches and our families by doing the difficult thing first. If somebody asks me to take out the trash, but I know for a fact that guy's never taken out trash and he's not willing to do it now, I'm not going to be too keen on following his lead, right?
Right.
But if somebody asks me to do something that I know they've done, I know they've paid their dues, I know that they've invested the work to grow in this area of their life, it gives them a level of credibility that's required for them to lead healthy teams. And so we have to engage in that process. And a lot of times what that looks like is a lot of prayerful self-reflection. It's conversations with people that we trust, people that we know love us, they care about us, they want the best for us. And we ask them, where do I need to grow? What are my blind spots? What am I missing? And then we begin to take that feedback and process it and begin to apply the appropriate principles needed for us to grow in those areas. The struggle with that is it can be really difficult when someone you love says, hey, you're not very good at this, or you're kind of mean when you get into these situations. You were short with that person in some way. And it can be really hard for us to hear that kind of feedback because the natural human instinct is to feel judged, it's to feel criticized, it's to feel condemned. But that's why it's so important we pick the right voices to listen to, such as our spouses, close family members, close friends, mentors, people that we have relational equity with, that we trust them. We believe they want the best for us. And because we believe that, then it opens the door for us to be able to hear what they have to say and to apply some of the principles necessary to help us grow in those areas.
True. And I completely agree to that. And that was well explained. Thank you for that, my man. So what about this? What have you learned about hiring and developing great people?
You have to look not just for talent, but for willingness.
Hmm.
In the marketplace, in business, you get to offer a paycheck and benefits and a particular working environment, a healthy culture, things like that are very attractive to people. And so you often you post an ad for a job and you begin to interview people. You talk to the people on your team and you ask them to send referrals to people that are great team members. And it gives you this beautiful crop of people from which to pull and to hire. So then once you get somebody on board and you see that they're a good quality person, they're trustworthy, they care about the job, they do a good job, they care about clients or customers or, producing the work that they've been hired to produce. Perhaps they're a great individual contributor, but not a great leader. But if that person wants to learn to be a leader, you can teach them. Leadership is a learned skill. And some people have, like if you listen to John Maxwell, so leadership author and coach, he would say that all of us have a leadership lid. And so, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe you're naturally a 4, but you can learn leadership principles. You can grow as an individual in such a way that you can move your lid to a 6 or a 7, right?
Right.
And so you can learn leadership principles, even though you might not be the most naturally gifted leader. And so when I think about investing in people, I don't look for talent first. I look for willingness. I look for humility. I look for people that are hungry for the right things, that want to serve our community, want to serve the team, want to accomplish a shared mission, that they're not in it just for themselves. And then those are the people that I just invite to spend time with me. And sometimes we read a book together. Sometimes we just, we'll get coffee a couple times a month together and talk through things. And so for me, personal development with staff and team members really relates. It's less about a specific set of content and more about let's do this together. And if you read the Gospels, that's what you see from Jesus, right? He taught them
Right.
as they walked through life together. And on the ministry side is very similar to that. The only difference in churches is that commonly you're working with volunteers and leading in business. You have some advantages. You have certainly the advantage of discipline and that kind of thing. The advantage of a paycheck. The person feels a sense of responsibility because they're being paid to accomplish a certain goal. On the church side, when you're working with volunteers, you don't have that same leverage. You don't have that same authority. And so you have to have a lot more personal authority in their lives by building a relationship with them,
Relationship with
building
them.
higher levels of trust, so that when you ask them to do hard things or when you have to share a difficult truth with them, and call out maybe a blind spot in their life in a loving, caring way to encourage them to grow, you have to have the relational equity necessary for them to receive that. So for me, hiring, staff development, all of that revolves around building strong relationships with people.
Building strong relationships with people. I got that. So we have two more to go, Chris. So what is the core message of the unseen work?
It is the story of planting Presence Church. And in the context of that story, there's just some leadership lessons along the way, some personal formation questions along the way. And while it is a book that's written to people considering planting a church or to people who have just planted a church, I've even included some in the book for lead pastors and churches that are considering investing in church planting around the world. Truly, the book is a mirror that allows people to work through a process of self reflection to see where the Spirit of God might lead them into growing as a follower of Jesus. And so while there's some leadership lessons and some fun stories in the book, really the aim of the book is to help people encounter the voice of God for themselves in their own lives and to listen to the voice of God as he encourages them and challenges them to grow in different areas.
Beautiful, and I got that. So what is one leadership lesson you wish you had learned sooner?
That's an easy one. It's delegation.
Hmm.
I'm I'm a very driven person. When somebody says go take that hill, I'm ready. Let's do it. Let's make a plan. Let's
Hmm.
go take the hill. And then I hold on to all the responsibilities of the whole team because no one can do it as well as I can do it, at least in my own mind. And so that caused me for many years to hold on to too much rather than trusting the people that were around me to carry their part of the mission for the team. And now that I've learned to delegate more effectively over the years, it's allowed our team to get stronger. It's allowed our team to grow. Delegation in itself is a powerful tool in team development. Because when you look at someone and say, here's the goal, here's the mission, and I trust you to do it. I'm here to resource you and walk with you and equip you as you go, but I trust you, run with this and make it great. They feel like such a sense of empowerment and buy-in that they're ready to run through walls for the team because you believe in them and you trust them. The challenge with delegation is if you give somebody a certain level of responsibility, you have to give them an equivalent level of authority. So
Hmm.
this is where a lot of burnout comes in. This is where a lot of disgruntled team members, whether in business or in the church world, even in our families, if we ask someone to accomplish a goal, but we don't give them the authority to do what's required to accomplish that goal, they're going to be frustrated because they're going to get held accountable for not accomplishing the goal. But it's really the leader's fault for not giving them the authority they needed in order to complete the mission. So we have to make sure those two things are equivalent. The responsibility and also the authority required to accomplish the goal. When leaders learn to delegate and hand off tasks that others can do almost as well as they can, you see teams increase in effectiveness. You see the mission move forward faster and it goes further than it could ever go when the leader refuses to delegate.
Hmm. I got that. Delegation is a powerful tool in team development. I got that. And I'm going to take that as a final thought, Chris. So for folks who like to reach out to you, learn more about the wonderful stuff you're doing, or make a purchase of your book, or even ask you questions, how can that be possible?
Yeah, two ways. The book's available on Amazon.com. There's an ebook download there as well as a paperback that's available. And then I'm not very active personally on social media, but our church is very active. And so you can follow us at Presence Church SJ. And that's the best way to get a message to me as well, is just send a message through Instagram, and our team will make sure that message gets right to me.
Beautiful. So that's gonna be the end of the show, Chris. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing these dates.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on. It's so fun. So good.